INCRadio DCEM 954, the voice of truth, the official radio station of the Church of Christ or Iglesianicristo.
And good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of INC Radio Florida. I'm one of your hosts this morning, Brother Robert Tapalas, coming to you from here in Tampa, Florida, here on a sunny and bright Saturday morning. It is about 9:30 in the morning, a little bit after 9:30 in the morning here on Saturday, May 18th, and we are so happy that you're able to join us this morning. But before we move on to our super exciting topic, because if you're here in the state of Florida, we're approaching summertime. A lot of you are going to be wanting to come down here on vacation, but everyone knows all the big city attractions. Our show today, along with the rest of our series, is going to focus on a lot of those hidden gems here in Florida that you may never have heard about. Before we do that, we're going to have our international greetings with Brother Jim. Good morning, Brother Jim. You don't look like you're up there in Pensacola. I think you're out there exploring some of Florida's finest yourself, aren't you?
I certainly am, brother. I definitely have that wanderlust. So I enjoy travel. That's why I'm so excited about today's show because I don't know, Florida, we're so blessed to live in a place where, we have all these big sites, but like you said, we've got these hidden gems that people really need to discover because there's so much to do. But before we get into that, certainly welcome everybody. Buenos dias, buenas tardes, bonjour, guten morgen. I tell you, it is it's just one of those perfect sunny days, and I am so blessed to be traveling today. And I wish I could go up to that beautiful place that we're going to be talking about. Sister Audrey, you are the expert for this wonderful city. It was a city that I went to when I was just a kid. And the only reason why my family went here is because my dad got tired of driving down from Ohio. we, we were supposed to go further. We were going to go down to Fort Lauderdale. But, with three kids in the car, and I think he just said, this place looks good enough. So we swung over to St. Augustine. But you've had the pleasure of living there for quite a while before you moved over to Tampa. So tell our listeners about this hidden gem.
Oh my goodness, yes. And St. Augustine, if you haven't visited or even heard of St. Augustine, truly it is one of our most beautiful and historic hidden gems here in Florida because it's such a hidden treasure. I mean, a lot of people, when they think Florida, they think automatically like, oh, the beaches, oh, Orlando and the theme parks and things like that. But St. Augustine it's truly this hidden treasure in Florida because it's not very common that you hear about it unless you're a history buff. But if you look on this next slide, so where is St. Augustine? It's right. I mean, if you're familiar with the geography of Florida, if you know the Northeast, Jacksonville's the major city that's up there. So it's coined as the first coast, right? Because it's like that first coast of beaches when you enter the Florida borderline. But then if you go just a little bit south of Jacksonville, so where I lived in Fleming Island with my parents, St. Augustine was only like a 45-minute drive straight through the back roads. And I mean, like in that little area, there's mostly farmland. If you're coming from inland going out. But we've got some of our INC radio hosts here. I'll be speaking on behalf of Sister Cherise here, but I know, Brother Jim, you've had your little taste of St. Augustine. So in these next photos, can you share what were you able to experience? I know you were there with your family too.
Absolutely, yeah. So a lot of these scenes, you can see that we're right over. We're going downtown St. Augustine, which to me is it's the first city, right? It's the longest continually inhabited European city where the Spanish came in, colonized. They were able to stay there. So it's the city that's had continuously had shops and businesses And this little old part of town's been preserved where you can go through and kind of feel like you're back to what is like the 1600s. So hundreds of years ago, these shops have all these cool little knickknacks. The food is fantastic. But just that experience, and one of the things I love when I go on vacation, especially if you're driving to a location, that you can get to a place and stop and park and then really just spend the rest of your vacation walking around. And St. Augustine's that place. There's just so much to see within walking distance that, I like to park the car and just be done with that part, right? and then just really enjoy walking around. You see on the right side, I'm actually having trouble seeing all this stuff, so apologize. But there's this wonderful park. One of the reasons why the Spanish explorers came in, and obviously they were wanting to, they built a fort there just to kind of protect their shipping that was coming up from South America. But it's like everybody has these like side quests, if you will. Well, Ponce de Leon, he wanted to find the Fountain of Youth, so he thought there was this place where you could jump in, and who wouldn't want to find a Fountain of Youth? But there's this huge park, and it has all these beautiful gardens. They have reenactors, as you can see in there, that really take you back. There's so much activity around St. Augustine that really celebrates the history. There's a lot of reenactments that go on. I've never been to the city where there wasn't some reenactment, whether it was a battle or, like in this instance, they were just showing you different things about how people lived back during those earliest colonial times. So I just love the city. I really can just go on and on, but I know I don't want to use everybody's time.
No, and I love that you brought your family to enjoy that too, because I mean, it's part of St. Augustine, having grown up in Jacksonville, adjacent, like in the suburbs. It was like this was a day trip. You could just take anyone coming in from out of town, especially if they love like history and old like European structure and infrastructure. It's still preserved, so you're walking those same streets that hundreds of years ago these people coming in from out of the country that are discovering the United States for the first time walked in. And so it's like you're getting that piece of history with you. So I love that Luke is part of that part of that experience with you guys. Did you guys experience anything just for that Luke particularly enjoyed? Because I
Oh
know
my gosh.
it's very friendly for kids if you take your young family there.
Well, of course, the fort, he had to get up on top. He had to act like he was firing the cannons, right? There's nothing more exciting for a kid, to see that. The thing he loved the most, we stayed in a little place called the Pirate House, and it's a themed little like bed and breakfast. And it's right downtown, and they did such a wonderful job. They hid they basically gave you a pirate treasure map, and Luke had the best time. I think that was definitely his highlight, where he went around the room and he found all these clues and these little pieces of chocolate, that were shaped like coins and things. So he loved that. And then when he, after he went through it and he found the main treasure, he was like, "Let's just go into this other room. I know there's more treasure in these other rooms." I'm like, "No, you can't do that." But
Now, was it brother Jim? Was it Luke or was it you that really enjoyed that treasure hunt?
Well, I gotta say, I had to test the coins, right? I had to make sure they were pure 100% chocolate. So, but it was, that was probably definitely his highlight, and for my wife, all those little shops. There's so many interesting shops there in that downtown area. She loved all the little, the knickknacks and the different clothes and things like that. So it's a great family destination.
Oh, for sure. And then if you look in the next slide, Sister Cherise also had the opportunity to bring her family over and enjoy the history of St. Augustine. So you can see the Native American heritage that all the different cultures that were there in the first place with St. Augustine. And then the next slide, she's also got She also had the opportunity to visit some other landmarks too in St. Augustine. So in the far left, you can see there. So one of the major things that St. Augustine is known for is being the home to the oldest wooden schoolhouse. So this is the first wooden schoolhouse. You can see it on St. George Street, where if you saw in the first few slides, Luke was standing. St. George Street, the original cobblestones still in place, and just a few blocks down before this restaurant, which is so great for its Spanish cuisine. You'll see this little house there, and I they've set up tours, like like scary tours just to kind of entertain the tourists. So you may see a doll pop up or two in those windows up ahead, but you can see a lot of families taking pictures in front of this little wooden house there. So that is the original building. And then you got Sister Cherise and her husband there. And then one of the other major landmarks of St. Augustine too, in this next slide. So preserving that original architecture is the Lightner Museum. So this is a major event hall now. Like you can still go through the museum and go through and go take your family through it. You've got like that little courtyard there inside the Lightner Museum, but it's also a major event hall where you can host weddings, you can host parties at, and it's so beautiful, just because it just keeps that original Spanish architecture. The next slide, I think she's also had the opportunity to visit Flagler College. So Flagler College, especially for my artsy folk, this is it's a beautiful arts college where because I mean it's so ingrained in the history and the culture of St. Augustine. Of course, it's going to have major arts degrees that you can explore there when you're going to school there. So Flagler College has all these beautiful architecture. Sister Cherise actually on the outside, she has some photos there with her family, and it almost looks like you've stepped into this castle. This castle in it's almost like you couldn't tell you were in Florida anymore. So so with like it's got a huge athletic field there, like 6 resident halls. And then in the next slide, once you step inside, it's you've got these beautiful designs on the ceilings and on the floors. And they're in Ponce Hall. So this is where you just step right into the lobby. Imagine if you're going to school and you're about to take calculus, and then this is what your scenery is like. I wouldn't mind studying all year round for sure. Did you get
Did they have calculus in the 1500s?
no, I don't think they probably just
I personally feel that mathematicians just invented that to make school more difficult, so we'd have to stay longer.
Did you get a chance to step inside Flagler College, Brother Jim?
Yes, I did. And it is, for architecture and art, they had a lot of exhibits going on for art. They had a historical, they had a lot of oil paintings that were up, and just going in there. But what the thing that fascinated me, the way they built that college, that poured concrete method, which now is it's like the way they were able to build it, this massive structure, and of course the details inside, are so ornate and beautiful. But they just had a single pour concrete, and Flagler was, he was just one of those visionaries, and he said, we can build homes like this a lot faster. And he was truly a man ahead of his time, because now they're doing a lot more of that, and they're just basically building. It's like 3D printing, if you can imagine that, and it is. And he was so far ahead of his time. But I got to watch the videos about how that college was built when you go in, and it's so fascinating how quickly it went up. And then of course they could spend all this time, this beautiful, ornate, all the little details, and just like you said, the ceiling murals and things like that, just spectacular.
Oh yeah, and I mean it's you get to relive it from its original design, and like maybe just a few touch-ups here and there, but the fact that it still lasted through all these years, it's breathtaking to say the least to see how much has gone into it to last all these years. And so, Flagler College, for its namesake, Henry Flagler, he was the entrepreneur that purchased the Jacksonville and St. Augustine Halifax River Railroad. So that's who the college was named after. And he bought out property out in St. Augustine, and the college actually used to be a hotel. So if you look at the courtyard that's there too, where Sister Charisse and her family took pictures in front of, I mean, it had the major fountain in there, and then the different classrooms were also just converted previously from hotel rooms. But these hotel rooms were like what we consider as major suites in commercial hotels that you'll stay in now. You had a like, full kitchen, your living area, and then a separate like receiving room. So and it kept like the original design and the interior, the rugs, things like that. It was a luxury
Yeah,
to stay
the same
there.
hotel. That was the thing. It's like, the super wealthy on the East Coast of the United States would come down in that era, and they would just winter down in Florida. They were the original snowbirds, but I don't know. They were the snow peacocks. I would say they were very
Yeah.
very elaborate.
Yes. Well, I mean, there's more photos here. So after Sister Cherie, so you've got photos there. There's also the Castillo de San Marco. So this is the major fort in St. Augustine, because as you can see in that photo there, you've still got cannons that are functional. Like, you can still use them. And what's so unique about this fort was built is because it was made out of coquina, and coquina is like that cement seashell mixture, and that's what made this fort so impenetrable, because it's such tough material that you can't really find anywhere else unless you're in Florida salvaging these seashells. So these um the people who first discovered Florida was like, hey, what are these sharp, beautiful things? Let's turn it into something that's going to be for our benefit. So in the next slide, now, of course, it's not a fort anymore. You can't function it as like something in war, but now it's a beautiful place for families to gather. As you can see, my two favorite men there in the far left. This was us on holiday on the 4th of July, and you can enjoy the beautiful fireworks that go off at the fort, and that's the view. So if you're standing at the fort, like in that little walkway there, that's your view of that major street looking back into the historic downtown portion of St. Augustine.
I,
Um,
I
yeah.
guarantee if you take your kids to this fort, because I remember like that first trip, I think it was 5 or 6 years old, it will inspire any child to build sandcastles for the rest of the day. I went to the beach after that, and I was just like, I'm building that fort because it was just such an experience. It was the first time I'd ever seen anything like that when I was a kid, and it's just all inspiring.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, like, the beaches you'll see later on, but before you get there, so we're here at the fort. That's the first major architecture that you see. And then you venture into the city. And like what we mentioned earlier, you'll see these original cobblestone streets through the city, through that St. George Street, that little strip there. So in the next slide, they've reserved those cobble streets. It's specifically in the left two photos, same street. So St. Augustine is actually home of the narrowest street, I believe. So on Treasure Street, but it's the narrowest street. I think it's only like maybe like 7 feet wide. Not
Yeah,
very,
that's the
not
street
very
that
well.
I can't go through. I've always got to go around it every time. Every time I'm in St. Augustine, I can't go through that street for some reason.
Yeah, so I mean, you're walking the same streets that someone in the 1800s walked through too. So, and then of course, you see the strip malls and the shops there that have kind of enhanced that European feel and energy to it. This is just the bottom left is just it's a restaurant, and that's how they dressed up the outside. So very enticing to get you to come in. And then in the next slide, some of my favorite qualities about St. Augustine is the architecture, because you don't have to spend the $1,000 ticket to go to Europe to see the beautiful historic architecture. You can just go right into St. Augustine. So you got a hotel there on the far left. The right side is where so Flagler College is right up ahead, and then you've got shops and restaurants there on the right side. And then right there in the middle is the original Treasury building. That was the first skyline or high rise in St. Augustine, and it still stands to be the tallest building in the historic city to this day. But of course, once you get through the city, of course, you'll hit the beaches where you can build those beautiful sandcastles where you've got Volano Beach there was my favorite if you're ever in St. Augustine area. It's very quiet. It's not the powdery soft sand here in the Gulf, but you still got that texture of that coquina material that the Castillo was built off of. Were you able to visit some of the beaches here and well in St. Augustine, Brother Jim?
Oh yeah, that's why I say when I was a kid, and then when we stayed, when I brought the family for where those pictures were, we actually stayed on the beach. We stayed at a little hotel, so we were able to get out. And like I said, Luke absolutely loved playing in the beach. And it's nice, wide beach, and it's like I said, it is good, sandcastle making sand. So we had a blast out there.
Oh yeah, good texture. Yeah, it's like it's not the powdery sand that you get here on the Gulf Coast, but it's still enjoyable it's a variety of beach. So for any surfers that are out there, St. Augustine it's just the extension of like Jacksonville Beach. So you've got some decent waves, not as much as when you go further down towards New Smyrna, but I can guarantee you're not going to get as many sharks here in Volano Beach. That's for sure. And it's beautiful because most of the beaches in St. Augustine are extensions of resident homes. So they're still public, ways away from the homes, but it's not as crowded of a feel as you would get if you were near a pier or anything. The most exciting part about St. Augustine, I know I said it was the architecture, but I know everyone here is for the food.
You guys, that's what I've been waiting for.
I was waiting for us to get to this
I have been
slide.
taking notes.
I
have been taking
that we
notes.
finally got to talk about it.
So we finally get here. So I mean, the food is some of my absolute favorite. If you love surf and turf, I mean, you've got your fried green tomatoes. It's a hodgepodge of different foods. So you've got your fried green tomatoes there in the top left, but you've got this blackened tuna there on the top right. This is all the same restaurant. And it's of that restaurant that you saw, that green vinery. It's an extension into that outdoor seating area. So and so you got the blackened tuna, you got the fried green tomatoes. I don't even remember what the rest of the food was in that bottom right photo. But if you want the name of the restaurant, I will be happy to give it to you.
Looks good.
Yes. And then you got some Creole jambalaya Cajun cuisine there too, just because it's just a mix of all of these different cultures in St. Augustine.
Love that.
Oh yeah. So super delicious. I mean, you'll get your fresh seafood for sure. And then in the next slide, these are some of the desserts too. So we've got, I think there was just like a waffle creperie house there. The Dole Whip is cut off, but by some beautiful faces of friends and my brother. But there's pineapple Dole Whip there, so you don't have to go to the theme parks and pay your $200 ticket to get that pineapple whip, just to freshen up the day. But you've got like your St. Augustine, because it's so rich in culture. They also love and cherish their cuisine and pastry. Is it pastry making, or what do you call like a dessert chef, Brother Jim?
Oh, I know, it'll be like a confectioner.
Something like that. Yeah.
We just know that we eat it. That's it.
We call that actually my favorite person. That's what we call it.
Right.
All of our favorite people, right?
Yeah, so I mean, with it being the first settlement in Florida, it also has the yummiest food. And then in these next few slides here, just to kind of wrap up our beautiful view of this city, is a city at night, and they light up the trees and the walkways. I mean, truly, it is the brightest, as if it wasn't already stunning during the day. You'll see in these next few photos the same buildings that you saw earlier dressed up in these lights, just to kind of enhance your day to night experience of this beautiful city. So got some photos there of me and my favorite human in St. Augustine. And it's so meaningful to the both of us because this is where we got married. So we got our photos
Love,
there
love,
in
love,
St.
love.
Augustine. I mean, we spent many a dates there, but just to wrap up that journey going into marriage, of course, we wanted to tie in this beautiful historic city as well. So yeah, that takes us through this historic travel series of St. Augustine. Any specifics on restaurants or like locations, just direct message me because I'll be happy to send those to you. I say, Aunt Joy, have you been to St. Augustine?
I have. I actually have. The last time I went there was when my two boys were a little young, but we have a trip planned there actually upcoming towards the end of the month because we have some really fun activities in that area coming up. Some CFO activities that we'll be mentioning later. So it's kind of like it's a win-win really. Like we're going there for a CFO activity. And at the same time, we'll be able to visit such a lovely, historic, and vibrant place, here in Florida. And like I said, I was taking notes, and I think all of us were on edge. And even some of our viewers were like, we're 25 minutes in, and we're finally, who was that? One of our viewers are like, we're finally on the main topic, food.
Mood.
And I think they know us well, right? Our
Yeah, I
viewers
think I
know us
think the
well.
next time we do this in our travel series, we're going to move food to the front of
Right.
the presentation.
Absolutely.
So it's not a
I
To
reading,
the
think Sister
first
right?
Jen,
thing.
she knew, she said, if we talked about food, right, at the beginning, that would be our only topic.
Yeah,
We
we'd never
we
get
might
off it.
not get to the rest.
All
Love,
right,
love,
well,
love that.
great.
I
Well,
love
that
how
was
you put that all together,
awesome.
Sister Audrey.
Yeah, so Sister
Yeah.
Joy, let's talk about what's coming up here on our in our district in CFO in action. Let's tell our studio audience how it is that they can stay connected with us, of course, and give our shout outs and acknowledgement.
Love it. And as I mentioned earlier, we have a trip planning up there to the northern part of Florida to St. Augustine because we have a CFO activity, which is Unity Games. Not only do we have Unity Games for all of those who are involved with sports, we also have a Binhi Friendship Day and a Kadiwa activity where this is an opportunity for our youth to be able to get together, to meet together and have activities together and just bond as Christians. So we're looking forward to that later on in the month. And we also have coming up this weekend a band together. So you all, we're talking about sports, we're talking about arts, we're talking about music. So these are just so many wonderful activities that we're looking forward to with the Christian Family Organization. So be sure to participate, whether you're in the youth, whether you are married. This is just something for the entire family. Now, how do you stay connected with us? Because you know that we have some great topics. This is how you can stay connected with us. Make sure that you can visit www.iglesianicristo.net/INC radio. You can also YouTube search us. And don't forget, when you put in the YouTube search, you put INC Radio Florida because you know that's your favorite. Be sure to click on the live now, or you can even watch some past shows that we have. Looking forward to seeing you all participate and joining us even in our comments section.
All right, great. And then can you go ahead and read our acknowledgments as well before we sign off,
Oh,
Sister
absolutely, Brother
Joy?
Robert. Here for INC Radio Florida, we love to send our love and our greetings, most especially to our dear brother Eduardo V. Manalo, that's our executive minister, Brother Angelo Irani Manalo, our Subsea CEO and CFO coordinator, Brother Manley and Dyer, our executive producer, Brother Marlon Belasan, who's here in the District of Florida as our district minister, Brother Carlos Medina as our assistant district minister, Brother Mark Bernal, he is our CFO overseer, and of course, we never forget you, Kuya Tech. Thank you for taking good care of us.
teching good care of us. I saw what you
Checking.
did there. Jim.
Oh,
I'm getting faster. I'm catching those.
Love it, love it, love it. Thank you all for watching.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today on INCRadio Florida. And today is really just the first in a series that we're doing of places you've probably never heard of here in Florida. So please stay tuned. Each of the radio hosts here on INCRadio Florida have their own special little hidden gem that we want to be able to share with you. So please continue to stay tuned and join us, and hopefully we'll get to see you down here in Florida. Let us know when you're coming down, and we can definitely hook you up with some of our favorite local spots for you to be able to enjoy the local cuisine and a lot of the things here in Florida that only the locals know. So please stay tuned for that. And tomorrow, our band together, as Sister Joy mentioned, is going to be a regional band together, which means that it's not just here in Florida. It's actually going to be multiple districts that are going to be joining us. So we're going to have folks that are going to be performing for us that are from there in the Virginia area, up north, outside of Florida, in a variety of different districts that are all coming together and competing in this Christian competition to see whose band will best the other. So please join us. Tune in. It's tomorrow at 6 p.m. And please get together with your Christian family organization to find out how it is that you can get the link to join us and watch this historic event. But for now, this is Brother Robert Topalis coming to you from here in Tampa, Florida. For Sister Joy there in Orlando, for Sister Audrey, who's here in Tampa, and for Brother Jim, who is from Pensacola, but he's also exploring Florida, so he's in Orlando today as well. We are so grateful to you for joining us on INC Radio Florida. We'll see you next week here on INC Radio.